Hi guys, just letting you know that there's going to be a series of short videos that I'm going to do. I tried to do one long video and YouTube wouldn't accept it, so I'll have to figure that out later. But for now, in an effort not to film everything, I'll just release 3 or 4, maybe 5 short videos for you as to what I've been up to in the recent past, and this will give you a little bit of a clue. So stay tuned. Hello, my friends. Hi, everybody. Let's see. Today is September the 10th. Yesterday was my son's 22nd birthday. Today is September the 10th. The dogs just came running because they heard me say hello, and I'm sure they thought somebody was here. It has been a while. I so apologize for that. I've had so many. Life just, as it does for everyone, it got a little crazy there for just a short period of time, and I think the last time maybe I filmed anything was in June, maybe May. I'm not sure. It was a while back. And so we've moved. We bought a new house. We sold our house, and it's just been this crazy, absolute wild adventure that I thought I would take at one point, but I thought it would be several years from now. So I'm going to tell you the whole story, and I do have some stitching to show you. I'm going to try not to make this video too terribly long. The dogs are both up here now trying to cause problems, so I might have to pause for a second and take care of them. They don't understand who I'm talking to. Apparently they don't remember me ever videoing before, but okay, so let's see how it all went down. So we're in the middle of COVID, right? And it was June, and I think that the last time I filmed, I told you that both my 2 youngest were home from college. Schools had shut down in March, and so they were both home, and we were kind of going along. They finished their spring classes online, and then they both had one summer class to take online, and Ryan was teaching lessons virtually, piano and trumpet lessons virtually, and Maddie was working a nanny job, and I have a golden retriever who is going through the terrible teens. I think she just turned a year, and she's just become very, very ornery and very wanting my attention all the time. But anyway, so things were just kind of going along, and we weren't really going anywhere, weren't really doing much. And if you remember, Ryan came home on spring break. The school had shut down for spring break. He goes to school in Virginia, and they had shut down for spring break, and he had come home, and then the school had completely shut down for the rest of the year. And because the state of Virginia had such a big shutdown and closed everything, they would not allow the students to come back to campus and get their stuff or their vehicles, as Ryan's case was. Okay, I apologize for that. I had to give the dogs a Kong, a frozen Kong filled with sweet potatoes to get them to. They started wrestling, and okay. So anyway, he was not allowed to go back to campus and get his stuff. He was still living in the dorm. He's a senior now, so it was the spring of his junior year. So he finally got the all clear to come back to campus for a 2-hour time slot on June 28th. He had 2 hours, and he could bring one person to help him, get onto campus, go into his dorm room, pack up all his stuff, put it in whatever vehicle, and then, had to be out in 2 hours. So he and my husband flew back to Virginia the 27th of June, and stayed in a hotel that night, and then got his stuff the next day, and his car off campus, which luckily was fine. The campus security continued to work and monitor the campus, and so everything was fine. Nothing was touched. There were no problems. And so then they drove it home. So Maddie and I were faced with a weekend in June with nothing to do. And I think it was actually the first week that the Omaha Zoo was opened, and we kind of opened, because it had been closed for COVID. And so we kind of were thinking, here we have kind of like 2.5, 3 days of just the two of us, kind of girls' weekend, but everything's closed. There's really not a whole lot to do. We don't really want to be around a bunch of people, and so on. And so we were just kind of trying to think of some things to do. And the week prior to all of this, June 27th, 28th, the week prior, we had discovered and had heard through the grapevine that the empty lot next to us, next to our old house, had sold. And when we bought our house, that lot was owned by the people who lived across the street from us, an elderly couple, and they had planted a beautiful flower garden on this lot. It was mostly shaded. It was mostly trees. 37 trees were in this lot, and so it was mostly shaded, and she had planted a variety of flowers, and she really had quite the green thumb. And as she got older, myself and the lady that lived, my friend that lived on the other side of the lot from us, helped her with it and helped her garden. Well, she passed away last summer. Her husband did as well. And so the lot sold, and it sold to somebody that wanted to build a house on it. And so we had kind of always said, we lived in that house for almost 15 years, and we had kind of always said that if that lot sold, we were gone. We really liked having the flowers next to us. We liked having an empty lot next to us. We had, of course, open space all behind, and we liked that feeling. We had lived on an acreage. We lived on about 3.5 acres in Kansas City, and we lived on 1 acre in Indiana, and we just enjoyed the acreage, and we wanted kind of more acres at some point in time, kind of thinking that once Maddie graduated from college, we would start looking. So knowing that the lot had sold, we both kind of said to each other, wow, we'd really like to move. And it seemed like such a pipe dream on June 28th. But anyway, I came up with the idea that, it was a Saturday night, and Saturday, I'm trying to think what Maddie and I did. We rented some movies. We, just kind of palled around, ran a few errands. I mean, they're just really, as it is right now, there just really isn't a whole lot to do. And so it occurred to me that I was kind of happened to be looking online at houses just to kind of see like what kind of acreages are out there, what kind of is available. I'm sorry, I need a haircut really badly. And by the way, I'm letting my hair go gray. I'm not coloring it any longer. And so it's at that kind of horrible stage where it's half, like salt and pepper, and half whatever color it was colored, and so it looks kind of bad. And then I need a haircut on top of everything else. But I'm just going with it. So anyway, I came up with the idea that we could go look at some open houses on Sunday, and the boys were supposed to be home late Sunday night, and so we would just go, look at some open houses, wear our masks, just be real careful. If it was crowded, we wouldn't go in, but just be real careful and go check out and see what was available in open houses. September is fall. My fall cups are out. So she was all for that idea. She thought that sounded like a blast. And so we sat around the fire pit on Saturday night, and I pulled up, online all the open houses that were available kind of in the country. I kind of wanted something that was on an acreage, at least 1 acre, maybe more, but whatever. And I came upon 10 homes that were sort of advertised as, being on property. And so we had a schedule, and I mapped them all out and figured out. And the way that Omaha and the suburbs are kind of set up, sort of, is that Omaha kind of has a U of suburbs around it. And it kind of goes from the northeast of where we lived, kind of the northeast, and then kind of further east, and then starts to go to the west, and then the south, and then back up to the west, the northwest. So I don't know if I'm saying my directions right, but it's a U kind of around Omaha in these suburbs that are kind of very rural. And so we lived in a somewhat rural suburb. I mean, we lived in a regular, housing community, but right outside of our community there was a huge farm, corn and soybeans and all of that kind of thing, and sort of all around there. But we lived, in a housing community, so around a lake. So anyway, we did this Omaha U, and we started at 11 o'clock, and we had to, like some open houses were from 11 to 1 and some were from 1 to 3 or whatever. So I mapped it all out and we planned it all out, and we actually were only able to see 8 houses that day. With the last 2 we didn't make it to. But the third house that we saw happens to be the one I'm sitting in right now. And so the first 2 that we saw were kind of duds. They weren't really on property. They had been advertised as property, and they were both kind of corner lots, with big lots, but that's not really property and not really an acreage. And we got to this house, and it's out in the boondocks. It's actually in Blair, Nebraska, but it's not in the town of Blair. It's about, I think, about 7 miles outside of Blair, off a county road. A cornfield. I'm looking at a cornfield, like literally right across. Like my mailbox kind of sits at the edge of a cornfield. You cannot really see that our house from the road. We're on a hill, but then the house is sort of down in a little valley of a hill. So there's no risk of flooding ever again. I never have to worry about that again. And that was that was definitely one of the things on my mind. And so we got the open house for here, I think, was from 1 to 3 or 1 to 4. And Maddie and I pulled in the driveway right at 1 o'clock, and they weren't quite ready for us. They were just, sort of finishing sweeping up or whatever. And the real estate agent was standing outside, and the garage door was open, and she kind of greeted us and said, "Oh, just come in through the garage, and I'll show you the house." And we were the only ones here, and so we came in, and I walked in the kitchen. So the garage door comes into kind of a split entry, where if you go to the left, you're in the kitchen, and if you go to the right, you're in the mudroom. Or the mudroom's kind of straight ahead, and then to the right is the laundry room. And so I walked in and followed the real estate agent to the left and was in the kitchen. And it's a spectacular kitchen. And full disclosure, the house is really funky. It's very different. It's very unique. But I walked in and I took one look at the kitchen, and I looked at Maddie and I said, "This is my house."